Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I want to teach you how to make a wire wrapped earring using a Nunn design open frame pendant, some wire, a pretty 8mm bead, and some seed beads. For this project you're going to need a Nunn design open frame pendant. I have one right here, pear shaped, and you see it's got holes on either end that we're going to be able to feed our wire through. You're going to need an earring hook, an 8mm bead. The one I'm using is an Impression Jasper faceted gemstone in aqua blue. And then 2 colors of seed beads. I have a Mayuki Delica 11-0 in matte opaque sea opal, which is a really pretty green color, greenish blue. And then I have these check glass tri-cut beads, size 10-0. You're also going to need some wire because we are wire wrapping. I'm using artistic wire, 24 gauge in a gold plate. Tools, a ruler, chain nose plier, a pair of flush cutters, and a wire looping plier. So let me show you how you do this. To begin, you're going to go ahead and cut 18 inches of wire. And we are now done with our ruler and we're done with our wire. We're going to do all this wire wrapping with a single piece of wire. So we're going to take our bead. And what's nice about these open frame pendants is they are a bit flexible, so you can open or close that opening to kind of accommodate your bead. So you could do a little smaller bead or a little larger one. We're going to look where the hole of the bead is and we're going to line it up with the hole of the open frame pendant. We're going to take the end of our wire and feed it through. So it goes through the pendant, through the bead, and out the other side. You want a tail of 2 to 3 inches. You're going to pull the wires up to the top of the bead, and you want them to crisscross over the bead in the center. Take the short end and wrap it around the longer wire. You're just going to do 2 wraps. If you can, scoot that wrapping down a little bit. This is what we've got. You want to make sure it's approximately in the middle because this is going to be where you create your loop for your earring. So go ahead and trim off the end of the short wire and then take your wire looping pliers, grab it right above the wrappings and crimp, and that does half your loop for you right there. Pull the wire down, rotate your pliers up top, and then continue doing some wrappings while holding on to the wire with your wire looping pliers. I find this much easier to do than using round nose pliers, especially for this application where we want to be able to do some wrappings here while holding it up top. So I'm just wrapping it around and I'm trying to do fairly neat wraps. You could do messy if you wanted. After you've done 5 or 6 wraps, go ahead and release your pliers, and you're going to continue doing a couple more wraps. And then once you've got a nice foundation here where it looks like it's intentional, we're going to take that wire and we're going to pull it down towards the back and under that open frame pendant and through the middle, and pull that pretty tight. So now my beads scattered everywhere. I actually don't even need this many beads, but this will happen. It's because my wire is hitting them, which is fine. Okay, so do a few wraps around the side of the pendant without any beads. You can make these wraps close together or far apart. And once you get down towards the bottom part where it's starting to curve, you're going to want to add some beads. So we're going to string on gold bead, a pretty sea opal one, 3 golds. And of course, if you're doing this at home, do whatever pattern you like. I just want to show you the one that I did. So if you do want to duplicate it, you can. So I'm just doing a pattern of 3 golds, the sea opal, 3 golds, the sea opal, so forth. pull those down a little bit, and you're going to want to string on approximately 2 inches of beads. Don't worry about being exact because we can always take beads away or add more. Okay, once you've got your beads on there, make sure they slide all the way down to the base, and now we're going to just wrap the wire around the pendant, but with the beads wrapping as you go. So it helps if you go ahead and pull them down and hold them in place here, because then when you do that first wrap, they're going to end up staying where you want them. And then you will have to release them to feed your wire through the middle. But then go back and make sure you scoot them along down the base so that they do end up where you want them to be. And then just continue wrapping. Now these are glass beads, so my only word of caution is don't pull them so tight with the wire that they end up cracking on you. And you'll know if that's starting to happen. You'll actually hear a crackling sound, which is not what you want to hear, but this is a fairly easy project. So if that does happen, you can just restring what you're doing. So notice how I am trying to hold these so that they do wrap around. And then as we come up here, we want to make sure that this side is fairly even with that side in terms of how high up the seed beads are along the pendant, and that actually looks pretty good to me. You can manipulate it a little bit. I might add another turquoise and a couple more golds. All right, so I'm happy with that. So now I'm just gonna go ahead, well, actually, not to be a perfectionist, but that looked like a few too many. So actually, let me just get rid of a few. And now I'm gonna do some wrappings up top without any beads. All right, so when we get to the top, what you want to do is take your wire, and I can actually tell I have more than enough wire right here, so to make life a little easier on myself, I'm just going to trim off a little bit so I have about 4 or 5 inches. Now I'm going to feed this tail through this loop that was created when we originally crisscrossed our wires on top of our 8mm bead. And we're going to pull this through so it's tight, and that wrapping is up flush against the side of our open frame pendant. So then we're going to pull this around to the back, go to the front again, and then go around the side one more time. And now that is really quite secure. So we're going to now trim it. And then you can take your chain nose pliers and tuck that tail in. And there we go. We have just wire wrapped our pendant. Really easy to add the earring hook. We're just going to open the base of the hook how we would open a jump ring. Slide your pendant on and close that loop back up. And now, let me scoot these out of the way. You have a really pretty pair of earrings that was quite easy to do, and I think a lot of different options in terms of what beads you use. You can do a lot of different color variations. Before I conclude this video, I did just want to show you the different finishes and shapes that these open frame pendants are available in. So in terms of the pear-shaped, there is the gold tone, there is an antique silver, and a bright silver. So hopefully you can see the difference between the two. The antique silver is just more matte and has a little bit of a darker sheen to it. These measure about 34mm by 22mm. And then there's the round shape, and there's 5 different finishes for this guy. And they're just under 1 inch. So they're 25mm by 23mm. So you have the gold, And then you have brass. Now this brass is not coated, and you can see it's already starting to tarnish a little bit. So this you'd want to use with other brass components, and you'd also be wanting to have more of an antique look to it because it will patina. And then we've got a really pretty warm copper. Again, the bright silver and the antique silver. And do keep in mind that you can decrease that center gap or increase it. So some flexibility there too. You can find all the supplies you have seen in this video, as well as more wire wrapping tutorials at beadaholique.com.